Welcome to the MindC podcast series, Moving Digital Health. Our guest today is Arjun Puri, CEO and co-founder of Symbiotic AI, a clinical decision support platform to improve heart care outcomes. Thanks for joining us today, Arjun.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Can you start by telling us a bit about your background?
Yeah, happy to. So, my background's in digital health innovation and clinical informatics. I started out my career really working on healthcare information and understanding how we could leverage that healthcare information to benefit clinical care and improve healthcare services for everybody in the world.
Cool. And so what drew you to the digital health field?
You know, my dad is an engineer. So I still remember stories of my dad coming home with old PCBs and circuits and saying, "Hey, Arjun, go and work on these." And that only fueled my desire to learn more about information technology and how we use solutions and not just apps to solve problems. And that's kind of where my journey began into digital health. It was a perfect intersection of being able to have a positive impact in the world
Mhm.
where the solutions that you create have the potential to impact lives, both patients, providers, and also the healthcare system that we all rely on every day. And that's where my digital health journey began. But fast forward to now. Now I've had experiences with digital health innovation with health systems, commercializing and building digital health products in the medical imaging space, and now in the clinical decision support space.
Cool. And so what was your first exposure into the healthcare field?
Yeah, so after I finished my undergraduate degree, which was actually in sociology, so I was very interested in understanding, the social aspects of how people operate. Initially, it was in the criminology field. Before getting into the healthcare space, I was really passionate about pursuing a career in the legal space. But
Mm,
as I started to learn more about clinical information, health informatics, my attention really started to, get piqued by how we use information to help make decisions. And after I finished my undergraduate degree, I actually ended up working with a organization in Ontario that evaluated the competency of healthcare professionals before they could practice in Ontario. So these organizations, primarily work with internationally educated graduates, whether they're pharmacists, nurses, doctors, or specialist doctors, and want to ensure that they are ready to practice, in the space that they're entering into, despite being trained elsewhere. And when I learned about, the various challenges that physicians and other clinicians deal with on a daily basis and how similar they were, regardless of where the physician originated from, that only further piqued my interest into understanding, well, how are we using the information that's being collected by physicians? And that's what led me to pursue a graduate degree in health informatics and clinical informatics. And that, further fueled my interest and my intrigue. I'm going to age myself now, but that was, about 12 years ago or so now. So since then, the experiences that I've had and I've sought have all kind of, fueled that and added to that fire to get me to where I am today.
interesting. Yes, it is a field. Once you get into it, and your curiosity is piqued. There's infinite ways to take it. So now your latest venture, Symbiotic AI. Maybe you could tell us how that started.
Yeah, for a lot of innovators and entrepreneurs, their ventures start off with personal problems. And this was the case for me as well with Symbiotic AI. Unfortunately, not too long ago, my mom had a heart attack. And, like others who are faced with that difficult challenge, in the diagnosis of coronary artery disease, we tried our best to understand what this meant for my mother, what it meant for our family, because your life changes.
Hmm.
And then across the country, on the other side, in the western part of Canada, a colleague of mine, my co-founder, Dr. June Lee, was doing research in coronary artery disease. And when we connected and shared some of the challenges that we were having on both fronts, whether that be about having access to the right information to make decisions, or what sorts of pieces of information would have been helpful for my mother and our family when we were making the decision about how to treat her condition. That's what really gave rise to Symbiotic AI. When we really decided to peer in to the domain of cardiology and have a better understanding of how decisions are being made currently, and a realization that a lot of information can be left on the table while that decision is being made, and we may not be using the technological advances that we have access to their fullest potential, and that's what gave birth to Symbiotic AI.
Hmm. And why do you think, like you said, some of that information is being left on the table and not contributing to the decisions? Is it just is it they're in disparate locations? Is there too much information to consolidate? What's the challenge there?
Yeah, you're hitting on some of the factors there. And I think there's multiple layers, right? And you start finding this out as you start to talk to more interventional cardiologists, community cardiologists, and surgeons. And this isn't something, specific to the domain of cardiology either. The reality is that our healthcare systems are becoming more strapped for resources year after year. The population growth and the aging population certainly does uh, put strain on the healthcare system to be able to provide, support. And we do collect more information than we ever have today. Canada has spent billions of dollars into the adoption and uptake of electronic medical record systems, and we've been working on this for well over decades now. But the benefits are still, being realized as we speak today, and clinicians have a tough time being able to access disparate sources of information at the point of care when they're
Mhm.
making these complex and challenging decisions. And because the information is located in disparate sources and the analysis of that information is tough in a short period of time, it can be challenging for you to not leave information on the table and take every data point into account. And I think that's the benefit of some of the data science and machine learning foundations that we've been able to advance as a society. Artificial intelligence was made for this. It
Mhm.
was made for us to be able to analyze thousands of data points in a matter of seconds, to be able to provide risk forecasts, predictions of what might happen in the future, and actionable insights. So, there's multiple layers to it, but definitely the strained healthcare system, along with disparate information of sources, are strong contributors to that challenge.
Okay. And so, what stage is Symbiotic in right now? Knowing that it is still fairly young company. Yeah, tell us about the stage, and then where you are in the journey to for the future.
Yeah, excellent question, Ruben. So, if the listeners are familiar with technology readiness levels, I can state it that way, and then I'll give a more broad strokes picture of where we're at as well. So we are at technology readiness level 5, which means that we've validated components of our solution in simulated environments. In fact, we've actually also validated the accuracy and effectiveness of our core models and our AI algorithms retrospectively. That's what gave us the confidence that there's a potential for impact to patient lives, clinician lives, and healthcare system sustainability. So we're progressing, quickly and passionately towards advancing our readiness levels, but that includes, continuous evidence generation, iteration on our user experiences, because it is a partnership. We hear the term user-centered design in product management and product development all the time, but what it truly means is that you have to move at the pace as your end users do. And
Hmm.
our end users are interventional cardiologists, cardiac surgeons. So moving with them hand in hand, we want to make sure that we are relentlessly focused on their workflow so as to not interrupt that workflow and instead be supportive of that workflow. So we're continuously iterating on our user experience. And I think, that iteration doesn't stop ever because you're always trying to create a better product for your end user. But we are, at the stage where we're starting to have trials and pilots of Revise AI, which is the name of the clinical decision support system. It's a
Mm-hmm.
play on the word revascularization because that's the decision that we help cardiologists make. How to, revascularize a patient who's had a heart attack and has had a diagnosis of coronary artery disease, because usually cardiologists will have three treatment options. And it's not always the case, but sometimes they might treat the patient with medical therapy, send them home with medicine because they may think the disease is stable and not advanced to a stage requiring, invasive intervention. Sometimes they could treat that with a percutaneous intervention, or more commonly known as, the placement of stents to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that collapsed and stenosed vessels are able to function as best possible. And then the third option is usually a CABG surgery or a coronary artery bypass graft or bypass surgery, which, indicative from our data, can often be better for long-term outcomes for patients as opposed to stents. But it is a complex and difficult decision to make when the patient is sitting, on the cath lab table, and you have to make that decision with the information that you have at the table.
Mm-hmm. And what has the feedback from cardiologists been so far?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. A lot of times entrepreneurs go out there and they create things that they think people want, but they're not, certain. But it all starts with a catalyst, right? Steve Jobs used to say, "People don't know what they want until you give them what they want," right? So a lot of that is catalyzed with designs and prototypes that you think would be compelling after discovery of, features and information that would be important to your end users. So, because we've had the privilege of partnering with heart catheterization labs here in Alberta, we've been able to work hand in hand with interventional cardiologists to learn about what their information needs are, where in their workflow would they like that information. And that has led to a strong positive response. But you know what? When we started this journey, um, and didn't have a face to put to the product and user experiences to put that product, it can
Mm-hmm.
be ethereal, right? And clinicians may not know how they feel about the product. But now we're at the stage of, where we can actually demonstrate those user experiences, demonstrate the value propositions that we're able to offer with the capabilities of the product. The focus shifts from awareness of the product to consideration about the product, and then making more, intriguing questions come to the forefront, such as, oh, I think this could be helpful here, or this would be particularly helpful in this patient's case. And it's that light bulb and aha moment when you understand how it fits into your workflow, that
Mm-hmm.
really leads to that positive response. So we've been privileged to get that positive response. But like I said, the iteration never stops because you're trying to create something that's going to continuously improve that workflow and offer, additional benefits. So there's always more work to do.
Yeah, there's a wide spectrum of preconceptions about AI, right? Like people range from being super excited and thinking it's going to solve all the problems to very skeptical and a fear of, oh, this is scary and bad. But like you said, once people start to see how it can practically fit into their day to day job and the tasks they need done. And then it starts to actually settle in. Oh, this is what AI is for. This is how it's useful. It's not some scary thing, or it's not magic, but there are specific places where it really helps. Um, and it is exciting to find those applications.
Absolutely.
Um, so you mentioned Revise and how it works with clinicians. There's a patient-facing side to this as well, right?
There is, anytime you're getting a surgery as a patient, you need to provide consent to receive that procedure. Now, there's obviously exceptions to that, rule that or that statement that I just made, where you may not be capable of making that decision or providing that consent. But generally speaking, if you have stable angina and stable coronary artery disease, it is a shared decision between the patient, sometimes the family caregivers, as well as the interventional cardiologist, who's sharing the treatment plan that's been designed for that particular patient. But without the patient's consent, things can't go forward. And it's important for patients to be able to understand their treatment options.
Mm.
And you can imagine, when you are going through symptoms of a heart attack and you've presented, in the heart catheterization lab, and you're getting that heart cath, and the clinician comes back and says, "Okay, we found something. This level of blockage in this artery or multi-vessel disease." It can be pretty overwhelming, right? And because the wait times for surgeries and a repeat procedure are fairly long, patients can sometimes feel compelled to make that decision in a very short period of time. So we're still learning, to be honest, Reuben. We're learning, and,
Mm.
and we're engaging our patients and their family caregivers to understand what would be helpful for you to make your decision, and what information would you want to be presented with. The level of information, the detail that we offer, as well as the I guess jargon of the nature of the information that we offer to clinicians may not work, and probably won't work as well for patients and their caregivers. So we want to be really intentional with what we develop for our patient partners and for our family caregiver partners. We think a lot of what is being shared with the clinician should be shared with the patient as well, but how they would like it delivered, how much time they need to be able to analyze that information to make that decision, is still something that we're learning a lot more about. But it's in our case, at least, it starts with the clinician, because the clinician is the individual who has to consume those insights to understand whether there's value of those insights and those risk forecasts to be
Mm.
presented to the patient. If it's a clear-cut decision that this patient should, absolutely be, going forward with a PCI, and having some stents placed, then that discussion may be shorter, and you may not need a information package for patients and family caregivers to have to go through, although the conversation may be fueled and pursued, and assisted by other pieces of information.
Mhm.
But the intention is for this to have a clinician facing component as well a patient facing component that helps that shared decision making be more accelerated and more informed, so that patients can think about the long term health consequences of one treatment option over the other, whether that be the risk of a future heart attack, the risk of death, the risk of affecting their health related quality of life, how many medications they might have to be on for treatment A versus treatment B. A lot of considerations, have to be taken into account, and we're still analyzing that data, and waiting to see exactly what our patients want before we
Mhm.
go out and build it. So there's a lot of consultation happening with our patient partners. So I'll do a quick plug. If there's any listeners who are, experienced with coronary artery disease as family caregivers or patients themselves, we'd love to hear from you and learn more about what would have been helpful in your coronary artery disease journey, or what could still be helpful to you in your coronary artery disease journey.
Well, that's excellent. I love the user-centered approach you're taking to really bring the patients and clinicians into the process to really, really understand their needs. Um, now, maybe you could talk about how the AI insights are surfaced in the tool. Uh, do you qualify or explain how Symbiotic came to that recommendation or insight, and what the different factors are? I know there's some um, some problems with like black box AI, that you get this insight, but a clinician has no idea why you're getting that insight. So then it can be mistrusted and kind of thrown out. We're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just gonna go with my own knowledge and training here.
Yeah, that's an Excellent question, Ruben. And I think you and I could probably talk about this for hours. But I'll try to keep this succinct, and say that, you're right. You're right. The trust that needs to be built with AI solutions is certainly a challenge. And it's not just a challenge in medicine, it's a challenge everywhere. And it's, appropriate for all of us to ask this question of how, what is the logic model, and how is an algorithm or a solution preparing the information that it is. And a lot of the advancement that we've had in artificial intelligence solutions as of late sometimes can't explain where that came from.
Mhm.
Whether it's the weighting of features, whether it's the type of model that's being developed, it all has an effect. So it's up to companies like Symbiotic AI to put their best foot forward to make sure that their systems are explainable, that their insights origins have traceable steps, and that's something that we've taken into account. So we are not a black box AI, and trust with clinicians is very, very important. So to that end, what we do is we provide a variety of different features that explain how our algorithms and our solutions arrive at the insights that they do, whether they be specific patient characteristics that led to an increase of a risk in a particular event, whether that be monitoring our models over time as they're ingesting new data and understanding how their accuracy, how their specificity and sensitivity has changed with new data or old data in there. These are all different aspects that are presented both to clinicians. And then there's another aspect to Reuben, which is IT teams at enterprise institutions and hospitals, heart cath labs are going to be tasked with the implementation and monitoring of products that have artificial intelligence components built in. So there's
Mhm.
also a component in Revise AI that's intended for IT administrators, chief information officers, chief technology officers, so that they have the confidence to understand that not only are our systems providing value to clinicians and providing that traceable logic model, just like the clinicians would have. Oh, okay, I'm analyzing this factor for this patient. I've read this randomized control trial. This is the case with the particular patient, and this is how I'm arriving to my, conclusion for the best treatment approach. They can trace that back in our system as well. And then for IT administrators, they can overall monitor the health and also have compliance, which is, a big thing for artificial intelligence systems right now. We operate in the software as a medical device space.
Mhm.
So there can be, although minimal risk to patients, they are real, which means that we must and we do ensure that we have quality management systems and risk management systems in place to ensure that what we are building has traceability as well. So for those, requirements from the standard side, it's essential that companies and clinicians alike are aware of what those requirements are, whether it's maintenance of those systems or how to responsibly train models as they're heading into adoption of some of these solutions, because they might not be mandatory requirements from regulatory organizations today. But my prediction would be that that's not going to be the case for very long, and that
Mhm.
regulatory organizations will want to see responsibility from software as a medical device companies or medical device companies that leverage artificial intelligence to follow those standards to prove that they're able to do this responsibly and ethically. And that's another place where symbiotic AI is differentiated in that the data that we have received access to build our models is not just scraped off the internet without permissions or licensing. We have securely, ethically accessed data with appropriate licensing terms so that we can get to this stage.
Mhm.
And that continues to be built into our terms and conditions and business agreements so that we do this responsibly moving forward as well.
Well, I love all of that and the approach you're taking uh, to um, to really responsibly build this product. Obviously, it takes a lot of different skills and knowledge to make something like this come to life. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the team, kind of different roles and kind of how you've built up the team as you've built the product.
Yeah, you're only as good as your team, right? And that's where successful CEOs really prove their worth, right? How can they attract the right teammates who are driven by similar motivations and can support the unified mission of the company and the vision of the company and what you're trying to do. And fortunately for us, we've been privileged that we've been able to find these teammates and work with these teammates, some from day one, and we continue to add more teammates who are passionate about solving similar problems that we do. We are trying to democratize precision heart health for as many people as we can around the globe. And that is what's really kind of the unifying force between our team. So right now we're small and mighty. We have my co-founder and chief technology officer who has deep expertise in data science and machine learning, Dr. June Lee, who's also a professor at the University of Calgary. And that's really how the company was initially kind of spun off. And our foundations were in academic research. It came from an evidence-based foundation, so that way we could have some confidence in the fact that what we were creating is evidence-based, is going to lead to potentially heavy impacts for the healthcare field. And then we added to that team by bringing on talented and motivated teammates in the user experience design and development space, in the product management space. Because we're building healthcare products and healthcare informatics products, information flow is very important. So we also have interface developers on our team who understand what it takes for information to flow from one information system to another information system, and how that information is passed back and forth securely and privately. Because when you are dealing with personal health information, that is of utmost importance.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an advisory board that has interventional cardiologists with practice experience, both in Canada and the USA, which really adds a tremendous amount of value, because it's like having a resident end user who's available for you to bounce ideas off of, for you to understand whether what you're creating is truly of value. These components of the team have been, massively helpful to help us accelerate our journey and our growth. We continue to be interested in bringing on additional individuals, of course, software developers. And because we're working in the AI space, we're also cognizant that, the team has a commitment and a responsibility to AI ethics in the medical field. So we're also inviting medical ethicists and data science ethicists to work with us and collaborate with us in that space. We also work with health economists as well as human factors specialists, because what we're creating has to be IEC compliant from a use case specifications perspective. Unless you can quantify the benefits of what your solution is able to provide through appropriate health economics forecasts,
Mm-hmm.
you're not really able to accurately claim that this is what the potential of the product is on with respect to a return on investment. So these are
Right.
some of the critical components of the team at this stage, and we're privileged to have passionate and motivated people working with us.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you have a great team around you, and you're solving an important problem. It might be too early to talk about success stories for patient outcomes, but in your mind, what's a future ideal success story of how Revise AI has impacted patient outcomes?
Yeah. So, this is where you have to put on that future vision hat and look into the future and think about what would it be like if it was an ideal state and, you were helping millions, if not billions of people around the world. The reality is that coronary artery disease is a leading killer of, individuals worldwide, and it tends to be a strain on healthcare systems across the world. So for us, success is avoiding repeat procedures for
Mm-hmm.
patients who don't need that repeat procedure, and the first decision is the appropriate decision. For us, avoiding future heart attacks or strokes is success. For us, clinicians spending less time behind the computer, documenting everything that they've received in terms of insights and automating that is important, and that's a success criteria. And then making the healthcare system and the delivery of heart care more sustainable because you're avoiding repeat procedures, because you're being mindful about physician time is also a success metric. Often in the healthcare space, you'll refer to or hear about a framework called the quadruple aim or the triple aim. And that's really what we've focused on. How do we improve the health of our populations? How do we improve the provider and patient experience? And how do we make care more sustainable? And if we can have some of these impacts and these metrics, with the revised AI that we're forecasting, we're confident that we'll get there. That's what success would look like for us. And then there's, always opportunities to apply what you've learned and done in the cardiology space and discipline into other disciplines of medicine, right? So I think if we can transcend and transfer our learnings and the foundations that we're building in the cardiology space to other disease spaces later on, maybe long into the future, that would give us an opportunity to have an impact on more than one discipline in medicine, and kind of grow our product offering at the same time. And at the same time, we want to make sure that our clinicians are happy, our patients are happy, and living better lives at the end of the day. And the team's happy, right? Because the team's got to be motivated and willing to come to work every day to build what we build. And a lot of that comes from one-on-one engagement with patient partners and physician partners. So we're always seeking those opportunities that help propel that forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can certainly get on board with that vision, Arjun. And I appreciate that you're putting all your energy and passion into this product. And thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Fantastic questions. And I hope we were able to share information with your listeners that they found intriguing. If you want to learn more, visit our website, symbioticai.ca, or feel free to get in touch with me.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone for listening to Moving Digital Health Podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please go to movingdigitalhealth.com to subscribe to the MindC newsletter and be notified about future episodes.